like to call this meeting to order. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Adoption of agenda, moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor DeRose, that the Council adopt the agenda as published on October 1st, 2020, and any and all revisions published October 5th, 2020. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of minutes. Council meeting minutes of September 15th, 2020, moved by Councillor Longo, seconded by Councillor Kenny, that the council meeting minutes September 15th, 2020 be hereby adopted. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Council meeting minutes of September 30th, 2020, moved by Councillor Sentence, seconded by Councillor Decker, that the council meeting minutes of September 30th, 2020 be hereby adopted. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mayor's report. On Friday, September 18th, all 12 mayors, along with Regional Chair Bradley, signed the declaration to join the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. This event was held at the new International Plaza located in front of the regional headquarters. On Tuesday, September 22nd, I attended the virtual panel discussion and MOU signing between Brock University and the Niagara Workplace Planning Board. The presentation was a joint Niagara Community Observatory, Niagara Workplace Planning Board report on the economic impact of COVID-19 on Niagara women in the workforce. And that report is published on the Niagara Workplace Planning Board website, as well as on the Niagara Community Observatory website. On Wednesday, September 23rd, I attended the unveiling of Miller Waste new trucks at their new yard on Town Line Road in Niagara-on-the-Lake. On Wednesday, September 30th, I attended the unveiling of GFL, which stands for Green for Life, new trucks at their yard on Glendale Avenue in St. Catharines. GFL will be the new waste management contractor servicing the city of Thorold beginning the week of October the 19th. And that's when we switch to the new collection system, and I'm sure you'll all receive a lot of information, not only on the websites, but they did a mailing. I received it today at my house. So I'm sure you'll be looking for that to come in the next few days. On Thursday, September 24th, our CAO, Manoj Dalwaria, and I met virtually with Brock University President Gurvan Firan, Provost and Vice President Academic Lynn Wells, and Executive Director of Government and Community Relations Megan Rusnell. We discussed off-campus housing concerns, partnership opportunities, and the COVID-19 implications on the university and the city. We are committed to meeting regularly and addressing concerns as well as opportunities moving forward. We have been holding weekly Zoom meetings with Brock University staff, their security department, which is providing off-campus security patrol, BUSU, which is the Brock University Student Union, Niagara Regional Police, the bylaw departments from the City of Thorold and the Niagara region. Donna Dalvecchio, our city clerk, has been scheduling these meetings and taking minutes. Some of those minutes are in tonight's package. These meetings have been focused on off-campus housing issues in problem areas with the goal of having a coordinated approach and moving from an educational to enforcement approach. On Friday, September 25th, the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, was signed by Ian Hamilton, President and CEO of HOPA, Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority, Mayor Frank Campion from the City of Welland, and Mayor Bill Steele, City of Port Colborne, and myself on behalf of the City of Thorold. This took place at the Lock 7 Viewing Center here in Thorold. The goal is economic development and job creation with a network of multimodal industrial hubs to be known as Niagara Ports. On Saturday, October 3rd, James Simons and a group of volunteers initiated a fall food drive for community care. Food bins were placed at drop-off locations throughout the city, supplied by willing hosts, and they collected non-perishable food. The event was a major success, and once again, the true Thorold community service shone bright. A public meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 20th at 6:30 p.m. That's our next council meeting for the proposed plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment for Port Robinson Estates Phase 2. Port Robinson South Main Street Bridge and Pedestrian Linkage Virtual Public Information Center is posted on the homepage of the city website and will be there until October the 15th. We encourage your participation. The Parks Standards Survey is available for public feedback. The survey is posted on the city website and Facebook page. Take the survey and you will be entered into a draw with a chance to win an iPad. The mayors and regional chair met virtually earlier today and discussed various common issues with a focus on COVID-19 and maintaining a unified approach with messaging, safety protocols, arenas, etc. The Ministry of Transportation has advised that on Wednesday, October the 7th, that's tomorrow, at 8 p.m., the Thorold Tunnel will be closed completely for approximately 4 hours to complete emergency lighting repairs. Detours will be in place. As we enter into the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, it is more important than ever to follow the established safety protocols. We must continue to work together to stem the spread of the COVID-19 virus. On behalf of council and all city staff, I wish everyone a safe, healthy, and happy Thanksgiving weekend. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. And we have no public meetings, and now I'm going to welcome our regional councillor, Tim Whalen, and he's going to give us an update on regional councillor happenings. Is he ready to go? Councillor Whalen. I don't see him yet. I don't see his pictures. There you are. Okay, Councillor Whalen, you're up. You're still muted. You're muted.
Okay, a little bit different.
There you go. Okay.
So, and thank you very much, Mayor Galini and councilors. It's great to be back after a little bit of time off with the COVID break, and I'm sure everybody was in the same boat after a little while. So it's great to get back in front of you all. And I'd like to update things that's happened recently with at the region. Last week that we started our budget deliberations for the 2021 regional budget. Staff proposed a start off for us with a 1% projected capital and 1% operation budget, plus COVID overruns. The COVID overruns are a little bit different now, which hopefully don't last too long. For 2020, we're in pretty good shape due to the upper level of government subsidies, which we were thankfully received. At this point, it's hard to tell what the COVID expenses might be for 2021 with the onset of the second phase, and who knows what the future holds. With this unknown, we have to keep in mind that 82% of the regional budget are essential services. Examples of this type of essential services are regional long-term care facilities, EMS, police services, and so on. This type of expense cannot be deferred, and with COVID, we can see unplanned increased costs. It's easier at the city level as opposed to regional level. For example, if you don't cut the grass in a park, you get heat, but you can always put that off to a later day and save the expense on it. And for the 2021 regional level, there are two big budget items that will affect Thorold immensely. Firstly, the plan is to replace the Aqueduct Bridge on Highway 20 just east of the Allenburg Bridge. Most of you remember that a short while ago it was out of service for emergency repairs for quite some time. So in the 2021 budget, replacement costs of $3.5 million will come into place, so hopefully upon approval at budget time. On the plus side, a detour will be put in place so the traffic flow will go around and not a Band-Aid on like last time, an emergency hit. A project like this does not run very cheap though at the 3.5, like I said earlier. Secondly, the other project is the Niagara Falls South Pumping Station at a cost of just over $325 million. This project is the biggest project in the 50-year history of the region. And the plus side, it'll be very beneficial to the city of Thorold. as we're looking forward to a $5.9 million increase in the capacity of the Peel Street pumping station and a new build of a new pumping station to be situated at the corner of Black Horse at a cost of $4.4 million. So there's a lot of expenses that's going towards the Thorold to enhance these services. The old faces around council remember not too long ago, the flooding of the basements in Thorold South and the transfer capability of the commercial area of Highway 20 to allow Rolling Meadows to get going. This only put a Band-Aid on the area to allow us to move forward. So at the present, there's a large pipe that runs underneath the canal, in behind pretty well where the old Dana plant used to be. It flew the sewage north toward Port Weller along the west side. With this new pumping station, it'll take the heat off of this pump and allow things to flow down towards the corner of QEW, the Welland River, and the Chippewa Creek, where the new pumping station will go. The new line will run between Peel Street in Thorold South to new Black Horse pumping station. Then it'll go east along Highway 20, south down Beechwood Road to Brown Road, eventually the area just north of where the new Niagara Hospital site is going to be. I'm sure everybody knows what happened over at the other site over on 4th Avenue, just how that area took off. So on the plus side, the infrastructure is up in the sky, just what will happen down along Highway 20. Allenport areas will finally get real and allow us to build immensely in that area, let alone to say that it'll easily handle any sanitary and storm flows in the Thorold South area. On the further side, all that area along the Lundy's Lane north and west of the canal will be directed south, taking the capacity presently flowing northerly. A big plus is the majority of the new water going away from the Peel Street pumping station is downhill. So it's a given that it'll be driven by gravity. This project is well overdue. It is what we've been asking for years. So therefore, the pending budget upon approval, this project will finally come to fruition. I'd like to switch hats for a minute and just mention a few things about the Thorold Sports Runway of Recognition. Like most events, the COVID-19 put a damper on our 2020 gala dinner. It was about to be held in 2 weeks before the COVID shut down everything. With this in mind, we've rescheduled the event to March 30th, 2021. All the tickets presently sold will be honored at the new date, and hopefully we once again allow people with 300 or plus to attend in a large indoor gathering. Unfortunately, we will not have 2020 inductees, to be fair to the 2019 inductees that will be recognized at this new date. Also keep in mind that the White Family Foundation Scholarship will be available for 2 scholars next September. For further information, we're going to be publicized very shortly to let everybody know just when the applications will go out and make 2 recipients happy for the start of the university or college careers next September. So let's hope and pray that we can move forward in March with this pandemic behind us. So other than that, if anybody has any comments or any questions about anything to the region, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'd like to open the floor up for questions for Councillor Whalen. Are there any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Whalen. Councillor Whalen, you brought up the Allenberg bridge replacement at just west of the bridge. We've had numerous issues over the years with the S-bend there. Do you have any update on what's going on with that?
Not sure, Councilor. The budget only played out the part that were replaced with the Aqueduct Bridge, but I can find out for you whether that'll be straightened out.
Well, I can.
Could I do maybe Councilor or Mayor Ugolini? He sits on Public Works, has something we might be able to add to that.
Yeah, I can just add that the request for full guard railing on the S-bend on both sides has been completed. So that safety measure, which was a long time coming, is complete. There's no immediate plan to straighten out the S-bend, but what they did was put guard railing on both sides, because that was a request that come in from a lot of the residents. And so that project's been completed.
Okay. And maybe one other question for you, Councillor Whalen, if I could. Just regarding from a regional perspective on the Canada Games, do you have any idea what's happening with the Henley Rowing Center? I've been trying to get information and it seems to be very minimal. So I'm wondering.
I don't, but once again with Mayor Ugolini, maybe he knows what's going on, sits on that committee of Public Works. So I know their mayor, if you've got any further update on that.
No, the only thing I know is they were gone to design. They were doing some design work on it. I haven't seen anything come back.
Councilor Longo, I can find out more specifics and get back to you if you like on that.
Okay, and if you could, and I guess one final question, with the garbage change coming forward to biweekly pickups, I'm just wondering, and I'm not hoping for the worst, but does the region have a plan to take care of roadside dumping? Because I'm seeing more of it now, and I hate to anticipate it, but I think it could be a problem. So I'm wondering, is that something that there's a plan to address if it crops up?
I hate passing the buck, but Mayor Ugolini again sits on Public Works. Maybe I can push that off. If not,
Yeah, no, there is a plan to up the enforcement on that issue. They're well aware that short term that could increase, and so they will definitely be upping the enforcement. But they've compared it to other we're one of the last regions that are switching to every other week garbage collections, just so everybody's aware. Almost, Toronto's been on it for years, Peel, Kitchener, Waterloo, they've been, London, they've all been on it. What they found is any issues they had were short-term related, and they found that they didn't end up being long-term issues. But I'm not saying that they won't be, but yes, they're looking at stepping up enforcement.
just have to hope for the best. Okay.
Any further questions? Thanks so much, Councillor Whalen. Thanks for coming forward and bringing that information. The South Niagara Sewage Treatment Plant's a very exciting project for sure.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe and don't forget to wear your masks.
Thank you. Up next, we have presentations. And I have Chris Green, President of Thorold Minor Baseball, who's going to present to us next. And is Chris ready? Here.
Hey, folks.
Welcome, Chris.
How are we doing today?
Very good. The floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you. I wouldn't normally wear a hoodie to a city council meeting, but I figured I better show off our new hoodies from Thorold Baseball.
Absolutely.
So, I apologize for the casual dress attire. So I won't take too much time today. What I wanted to do is come forward today, and I submitted a letter to council, and I can either share my screen, or if council has the letter that I sent in, I just wanted to read it to the council and then show a quick little slideshow of some of the photos from this season. I took over as the president of Thorold Baseball in November. I've been involved with Thorold Baseball for the past 3 or 4 years, and I've kind of transitioned the role from Fred Matheson, who did so much for the association, and now we're kind of moving in a new direction. So I want to read this letter, and it's a very, very heartfelt thank you from myself, my coaching staff, my executive, for all the work that the Parks and Rec team did this year for us from the city of Thorold. And I got a couple of stories to tell you at the end here. So, hi, my name is Chris Green. I'm the president of Thorold Minor Baseball. I'm writing this letter to the city of Thorold and the city councilors on behalf of Thorold Minor Baseball. We would like to extend a thank you to the team at the Parks and Rec department. Their work, effort, care, and cooperation allowed our association to not only navigate operating baseball during a pandemic, but they ensured that our fields at Sullivan Park and McMillan Park were in top-notch shape and on display as pride points in the Niagara region. During the 2020 season, Thorold Baseball offered 9U, 11U, and 18U programs. And a piece to note, we were one of the only programs to continue through the pandemic and kind of stayed the course and put in a safety protocol to make sure we could work for our kids. So during stage 2 of the pandemic, Thorold Baseball was restricted to inter-squad gatherings, practices, and development. Our fields were still in great shape, and the players and parents were treated to a safe and great experience. Once stage 3 opened, our season evolved into games. St. Catharines reopened their baseball program, and we quickly had bubbled loop games. This was when the Parks team took their game to the next level. It has been the intention of the 2020 Thorold Baseball executive team to put Thorold back on the map as a desired destination of youth baseball in Niagara, and your team at the Parks certainly helped us do that. Our mission was based on 4 pillars: communication, experience, development, and fun. We want to provide exceptional communication to our members. We've developed a brand new website that's attractive, easy to use, frequently updated, and very mobile friendly. The all-new ThoroldBaseball.com was well received by parents and players. We also wanted to provide the best possible player and parent experience. From the moment a player registers until the moment they meet their coaches, get their jerseys, and swing a bat, we want their time with us to be memorable and aimed at retention. The parks our players play on is one of the most important elements in achieving this goal. We cannot count the number of compliments from our parents, coaches, players, and most notably, the folks from St. Catharines about how nice Sullivan Park was this year. From nicely manicured grass, smooth raked dirt, laser straight lines, and in city parks and baseball, that is a huge deal. Laser straight lines. And of course, the way the park looked under the lights, our field was the talk of the bubble, and the kids got to have a big league feel during a very, very difficult time. The Parks and Recreation team helped us provide a much needed escape for our players during a pandemic that's taken so much from them already. For all these reasons and many more, we want to thank the team led by Curtis Dre and Stephanie Jarvis. We look forward to continuing to work together to provide an excellent experience for our players, families, and community. With their help and this council's continued support, we'll be able to return Thorold baseball to its rightful spot, a desired youth baseball association with growing numbers, tremendous development, and hopefully a few championships along the way. This year, and if I can share my screen with you folks just to show you a few slideshows while I kind of carry on here. Can you folks see that?
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is how we started out our season, where we couldn't use the dugouts based on Baseball Ontario's regulations because of touch points. So what we did is we worked with our partners at Front Row, and every kid received a bucket that they could put all their equipment in, and then we used the fence posts as our 6 foot, which are probably 8 feet, dividers. So every time kids came into the park, that would be their locker room. Everything would go inside the bucket. We could wipe down the buckets with our sanitizer. They didn't mix up their equipment, any of those pieces. So that was the first step we took in the parks. And then we had our friends at Front Row as well set us up with Thorold baseball masks. And I look much better in a mask than I do today, so I apologize. What we wanted to do is give a big league experience, even though it was a pandemic. We were the only association that stayed the course and kept going right from the start. We started on July 6th. We took Baseball Ontario's protocol that had been approved by Health Canada and the province of Ontario, and then we added protocol to it to make it even stringent for ourselves to make sure we were confident in doing this. At our opening game, we had the mayor come out and throw first pitch, and the funniest part was the little guy down there who caught the first pitch after this pitcher said, "Who is that guy?" So we told him who he was. It was Mario Ugolini. So here's some photos of the diamond. You can take a look at the quality of the field throughout the year. When we had them set up on their bucket 6 feet apart. We put them in their batting order so they stayed out of the dugouts. The parks looked great at night. This is my son there playing Mason. He got a player of the game one night. The parks at the night again. Our kids with player of the game. The diamonds were in great shape. We launched ourselves as well with Thorold Baseball, a line of Thorold Baseball swag to put us back on the map, and just a really cool picture of a night game we had there under the lights. At the end of the day,
You're sharing, we're not getting any of the pictures. Okay, now.
I'm sorry.
Now we are. Okay, there we are.
Sorry about that, folks. I had it on a separate screen here. Okay, so again, we set up the buckets for the players to sit on so they weren't too close to each other in the locker. We had Mario Ugolini throw out the first pitch at our first game. We had and again, I took a bunch of pictures here to make sure you folks could see how good the conditions were. This is my boy here. He plays on the 9U team. You can see the manicured diamonds. They did such a good job at these diamonds here. The park looked great under the lights. I wanted to showcase some of the swag that we've got and now that we have a fan shop set up. And then a really cool picture at night at Sullivan Park showcasing the diamond. So all in all, what I wanted to do to come today is to thank you folks for the support. Thank the team at the the city of Thorold for the Parks and Rec. And hopefully you folks took notice. We had some tremendous feedback this year. Our numbers were going tremendous before the March break. We were running off-season programs in the gym at Monsignor Clancy. We were getting 20, 30 kids out every night. I can assure you that this year, as much as it was baseball for our kids, it was on the executive's mind. It was the Thorold recruiting tour to show folks in the region, hey, Thorold is one of the smaller centers, but we're going to give one of the best player experiences, and hopefully we can bring a lot of kids back. What was really nice is we pulled 7 kids back from St. Catharines who live in Thorold to play in Thorold, and all 7 have committed again to next year to staying in the center. So your parks folks did a great job, and they played a huge role in that. So that's all I wanted to come and say today, and thank you, folks.
Thank you, Chris. Is there any questions for Chris? I got Councillor Kenny. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a question, it's a thank you. Thank you from the city for Chris, for you and your group and all your hard work, because Putting Thorold back on the map for baseball as it was many years ago is a great thing. Also, I'd like to mention Mike Williamson and Dave Baldoni, as well as all the unionized guys, because as you said, that park looked like it did in the 70s when Trombone and a lot of guys will remember that they used to talk about Thorold Parks, Sullivan and McMillan. So thank you again to you and your group. Great job.
Anyone
Thanks,
else?
sir.
Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Merritt, through you. I just want to thank you guys too, keeping kids busy, healthy, mentally healthy. It's not easy. Sullivan Park looked great. McMillan Park looked great. So to everybody on our staff, thank you very much for that. And thanks for doing it safely. Thanks for finding a way to get kids out there. So great job. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, folks.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you to Chris. Again, thank you. I live about a block away, and I like to get out of the house once in a while, as Sonner tells me. And I walk over and I watch a bit of the game when they're on, and the park is in fabulous shape, and the kids are enjoying themselves. You can just tell it. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, Chris, you know, I want to tell you it was a great experience for me to come to the park that night and see not only the kids out playing, but how organized and the safe return to play system that you had in place. That's so important, that health and safety was in place, but also that the kids could get out. And I think that's so important, especially on the mental health side and everything else. And when we grew up in Thorold, baseball, you know, when I grew up, actually, I hate to say this, I'm a hockey guy, but baseball was bigger in Thorold than hockey in those days. And with what you're doing and the way your group's so organized, I can see great things in the future. So thanks again.
Thanks, folks, and thanks for all you folks do on council.
Okay.
I'm Manoj.
Thanks.
Bye.
Motions for council support. I have Councillor Longo up, moved by Councillor Longo and seconded by Councillor Wilson. I'll turn this over to Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas Thorold City Council at its September 15, 2020 meeting received a presentation on the Thorold Public Library feasibility study, and whereas it was noted in the presentation that a secondary satellite branch has been recommended as a future expansion option for library services, and whereas the City of Thorold will be a co-owner of the Canada Games Legacy Facility being built in the City of Thorold, now therefore be it resolved that the Chief Administrative Officer and Chief Librarian be requested to speak to the appropriate staff at the City of St. Catharines to seek their interest in a potential partnership for a community satellite library branch located inside the Canada Games Legacy Facility. And two, that the Chief Administrative Officer and the Chief Librarian be also directed to contact the appropriate staff from other members of the Canada Games Center Ownership Consortium, being the Regional Municipality of Niagara, the City of St. Catharines, and Brock University, to request rental space at the Canada Games Legacy Facility where a satellite branch could be located. And three, that council be so informed of the outcome of these meetings no later than December 31st, 2020.
Do you want to speak on that, Councillor Longo?
Sure, if I could speak first, Mr. Mayor, I'll be brief here. Just last meeting, the Chief Librarian made a presentation to council, and one of their future requirements is for a satellite library branch. As an owner of the Canada Games facility that's currently being constructed, I believe that for Thorold, this may be the perfect place to add a satellite library branch. Having traveled to numerous community recreation facilities throughout the provinces and throughout Canada, I can tell you that most, if not all, new recreation centers are also a community hub that have libraries as a strategic amenity. The Canada Games facility should not only cater to a limited group of users, but instead expand its reach to more members of the community. A library would be a benefit to all partners. It would show upper levels of government that Niagara is working together to bring services to all its residents in a combined manner. And finally, as an owner of this facility, it's my feeling that it's a strategic use of our resources. It makes economic sense. And finally, it would be a more cost-effective addition to library services than any other alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. Anyone else like to speak? I got Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, the library is a separate corporation from the city. The proper procedure was to bring an idea forward to the library board to be discussed at the library board level, not to circumvent and go around the library board. You have disgraced the people that have been given the responsibility of looking after the library. The experts in the library field have stated that the library board's first priority is to expand the current library with an estimated cost from the feasibility study of between $6 and $8 million. The second part is to build a branch library in the longer term, a few years down the road, at a cost of between $3 and $4 million after more consultation from the community at large. The Organization of Libraries of Niagara Cooperative, which includes all Niagara libraries, will have patrons with a library card able to borrow from any of the Niagara libraries by 2021. The library do not have the funds to build 2 libraries at the present time or to manage a second library. Councillor Longo's idea is to build a library at the Canada Game site as part of the cost of the facility and have the city rent a library from Brock and St. Catharines. This is not feasible. Unfortunately, the Canada Games building is already being built. If you know the costs involved in changing plans for a building like the one that's already up is massive. I worked in the finance at Thorold Properties for a couple of years, so I just know what it is like. I supervised the rebuilding of St. John's Anglican Church. So again, changes to the drawings cost a lot more. We would be doing a disservice to our community. The space that the councillor is stating can be used will be mostly rented out to sports organizations, what this facility is. I talked to St. Catharines Mayor Walter Senzik, who stated to me that there's no room in the complex for a library. He would not agree to putting a library there as there's already an excellent library at Brock. If we're talking about partnering with St. Catharines, Ken Sue, the CAO of the St. Catharines Library, has no plans to expand. The students from Brock already have a wonderful library, which I have used in my past myself. They do not need another library. The operating cost of a new library at this location would not be cost effective. We need to focus on our main library for the next few years and add on to that building. In the future, we will discuss putting another library in place at a location that will have lots of input from the community. Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure what is going on here, but this is not in the best interest of the citizens of Thorold.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, no disrespect to either of anybody here, but I talked to Joanne today at the library, and she gave me a laundry list of, why they don't want it there. I'm all for satellites, but she thinks, and I agree with her, it should be on the other side of the tunnel, that's a stone throw away from their main library. And they have, and I like the ones that are in arenas and stuff like that, but she says their struggles are parking and they don't want to be in a recreational facility. So just going by the guidance of what she's talking about, I don't think this should be in the Canada Games facility. Thank you.
Do I have anyone else that would like to speak? Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question. Is this normal for council to request information on a satellite library, whether it's at the Canada Games facility or another facility? Is this something normal that we would do? Or would it go through the library board? I'm not really familiar with the process, so I'm just curious if somebody can answer that for me.
Does anyone want to answer? I know that traditionally it would be the library coming forth, but I'm not saying that that's the only way it happens. Does anyone else want to speak to that? Okay. Go ahead. I got Councillor Kenny and then Councillor Longo.
I would support part of the motion, but we do need a satellite in Thorold, but I think it's the wrong spot. I think it should either be in Thorold South or Robinson with all the expansion we got going out there. I don't think we need another satellite in Thorold proper. I think it should be, either, like I say, either Thorold South or Port Robinson. So we do need a satellite, and I will support that down the road, but not at this particular site. Thanks.
Thank you. And I had Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess through you, I guess maybe to Councillor Decker, I'm not an expert in the subject, but I know we do fund the library, so I would think as a council, we would absolutely have some say. I'm a little shocked that there's no support here. I guess council has made up their mind. Council doesn't want to maybe be progressive and just look and see. I'll tell you, Councillor Neal, that was very well prepared and a closed-minded speech as I've ever seen in my life. I just thought I was trying to advance and make things better for the city of Thorold in terms of utilizing an asset that this council has decided to get into. It's an extremely expensive building. I don't see how renting space that's available could hurt to investigate. But I guess if we're going to have a closed mind, then we have a closed mind and we move on. And we take our lumps with this building because it is going to be expensive. It's going to be extremely expensive. It's going to lose money every year, which we're going to have to pay for. We have capital reserve we have to pay every year. This is going to be for 38 years minimum. It's going to cost us, according to my calculations, about $33 million to have some ice. And not to move forward and try to utilize it and get more benefit for the city of Thorold just by asking a few questions seems to me to be the wrong way to go. But again, I'm just one voice here. So do as you may. I just think we need to, well, you know my feelings on this facility. I haven't agreed from it from the start. I'm trying to make something good out of it. Let me say, I'm trying to make lemonade out of lemons, but I don't think I have any support here, so that's fine.
Thank you. Councillor Decker.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. So I guess Councillor Longo, I guess my question is, are you just looking for some information to see if anyone is interested in having a satellite library there? And have you sat down with the library head? I'm sorry, I'm just gone a little blank here. To just get their feel. I don't have a problem us asking to see what what the feel is to have a satellite facility. Although my thought, and this is just my thought when we were talking about a satellite library, I had also thought that it would be good to have it on the other side of the tunnel, just because we do have the Brock Library, which I've used myself. So it's not that I'm against you at all. If you're just looking for information, I don't have a problem for information to see what the outcome is from that. That's all I have to say.
Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think I'm being closed-minded. I'm just giving you some information that I talked to the head librarian today and what she said. And she said, well, if somebody else is renting it, we get the money for it. If they're renting it, she said, where are we going to go and get the money? Well, we're going to come to the city to ask to rent and operate a facility there. So I'm not being closed-minded. I'm just giving you the information. I would love to make lemonade there. I would love to have things in there like that. I like the facilities that are there. I'm just telling you that what she told me today was it's a no-go. They've talked to St. Catharines, Brock, everybody. They're just not interested in partnerships there. And then looking at it from where it is and what it would cost, and to basically come back to us to fund it for them to rent it and operate it, doesn't make a lot of sense. So I mean, no disrespect or closed-mindedness. I'm just giving you the information that I got today that made sense to me. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor DeRose, you had your hand up.
Agree, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Longo's on the right track in that he's just trying to maximize the benefit of owning this building and recreation center for the next 38 years. Councillor Neal, you say $6 to $8 million. This is pre-COVID numbers, $6 to $8 million to expand the library, $3 to $4 million for another satellite. I just don't understand where everybody thinks this money is going to come from. I could see, I support what Councillor Longo's trying to do, in that he's trying to save us some money, save taxpayers some money, because it's going to run out eventually where we're going to start having double-digit tax increases. If you don't believe me, just wait and see. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Longo. I don't think it's a horrible idea. I guess the only issue I had with it was I too kind of imagined the satellite office would be on the other side of the canal, so it was easy access to the part of our city that's cut off by a canal. I've been to a lot of those other facilities that you're talking about where they have, multiple uses, arenas, basketball, library, and it is really neat. I don't know how that works in a three-way partnership. But to me, if there was a solution there, it would be having like our main library, if that was possible, having that library there. But again, that probably should have been something we did from the beginning. I don't know how that would work, especially in a three-way partnership. Plus, I would worry about, and maybe I'm thinking of it wrong, but that space that we were going to rent to other potential companies, I guess, that are not part of the city of St. Catharines, Brock, or the city of Thorold. So that would be revenue stream for us. So the library would pay rent, which we would in turn pay. So I don't know. I'm just thinking that would maybe just end up costing us more, but I could be wrong. So I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure what to suggest. I don't necessarily like the motion the way it is, because I think if we did have a need for a satellite, it should be on the other side of Thorold. But if we're going to ask information or look if our main library should be there, I just don't see how they would change that at this point. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to not support. I just don't know how that would work.
Go ahead, Councillor. Go ahead, Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I guess everybody's beating around the bush here. We have a main library that we would like to modernize. And it's going to cost $6 to $8 million or whatever $1 million. Councillor DeRose can figure that out maybe. But to have a satellite branch at the present moment, no matter where it is not in it shouldn't be in the cards. Whether we rent a space, whether it's out at the Canada Game Center, and how much of a rent, I would suggest it's going to be a massive rent amount. Because if you're going to build a library for $4 or $5 million, to rent a library, you're going to pay a big dollar. And then you have to staff it. And from my perspective, and I've been in finance a long, long time, and I've been involved with organizations that build houses and build buildings and that in my lifetime. And I just know how much it will cost to revamp that particular Canada Games facility, to put a library in there when there are other organizations that will be renting that, and I'm talking about sports organizations other than what we're talking about, that are going to rent that space for their particular purpose, no matter what it might be, racquetball or whatever. So that there's no research done on this. There's none at all. And unless we do research on putting a second library wherever it might be, and my particular thing is on the west side, or on the east side in the Thorold South area, we shouldn't even be talking about it, because we have to rebuild the current library to modernized standards. And so are we going to do that and also put a branch library just down the road, because buses go back and forth between Brock and here, Brock and downtown, and there's no thought put into it from my perspective, and so I'll stop from there, because
Okay.
I don't agree with it.
Okay, is there anyone else that wants to speak? I just want to make a comment that I'm not opposed to a satellite library, and I'm not opposed to what you're trying to accomplish, Councillor Longo, but based on the report that we got from the consultant, that was phase 2 of the long-term library plan. The short-term library plan is to focus on the existing library and do the expansion there, with the long-term plan to have a satellite. So I just believe that they paid money to have a report. The report was made to council. I believe that direction should come from them, but I also realize that we'll make the ultimate decision because we have to fund it. But I do believe it should be within the consultation of the library, making a recommendation to council, and then us deciding what to do with that recommendation. So that's my reasoning. Okay, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Decker? Defeated. Motion. Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Kenny, and I'll turn this over to Councillor Neal. It's a City of Thorold motion as well. Go ahead, Councillor Neal. Councillor Neal? You're muted. There you go. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just move it and state the resolution. Whereas the Thorold City Council adopted a motion at its July 21st, 2020 meeting pertaining to Bill 197, being amendments to the Environmental Assessment Act relating to landfill sites. And whereas the motion was forwarded to Premier Ford, Minister of the Environment, and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and local MPPs. And whereas a request has been made to circulate this motion to local municipalities for their support. And whereas there were 3 items approved in the approved motion, however, items 2 and 3 were directions to staff item. 1 contained feedback on the legislation for which support from the local area municipalities are desired. And now therefore it be resolved that the city clerk be directed to circulate the motion passed by Thorold City Council on July 21st, 2020 regarding its feedback on Bill 197, being amendments to the Environmental Assessment Act relating to landfill sites to local area municipalities for support of item 1.
Okay, is there any discussion on this? Everybody understand we already passed a motion. This is just to give us the authority to distribute it to local area municipalities for support. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Number 12, motion to receive and file minutes and adopt recommendation of council, committees, and boards. Minutes to review for information purposes, moved by Councillor Decker, seconded by Councillor Neal, that council receive and file the minutes of the committees of council local boards as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 12B, minutes to endorse recommendations, moved by Councillor Sentence, seconded by Councillor Wilson, that council adopt a recommendation contained within the minutes of the Planning and Development Public Forum Committee meeting of September 9th, 2020. Does anyone want to have a discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we move on to statement by councillors, and I got Councillor DeRose up first with Brock student behavior. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Read over the minutes of the town and gown, and I was really impressed, Mr. Mayor, with the excellent participation of all the stakeholders. I was impressed with the dialogue at the meetings. The reason I brought this up, just lately I've gotten some unsettling texts and calls in regards to things that are getting a little more severe. So what I wanted to stress is we've been educating and sending messages and informing people, but now I think, and you guys are on the right track, we have to pursue strict enforcement, which you guys have stated. And the reason I'm saying that is because now what I've been getting, I got a text just Sunday night, and I'm not talking about rude, obnoxious behavior, I'm talking about threats, assaults, and theft in regards to this. So, and some residents are getting targeted. They've called the police or informed by law. So this is what really concerns me. There are many people that I have mentioned that they were thinking of moving from Thorold because of that, from that area of Thorold. They want to move actually out of Thorold. So I just want you to keep being diligent, Mr. Mayor, with the committee and continue what you're doing. I don't think that problem is ending anytime soon. Not to be negative, but
I know.
go ahead, sir. Sorry.
And I want to thank you. We are meeting weekly, and we are moved to the enforcement mode, and I can tell you that quite a few tickets were laid last weekend, and one of them was the $750 COVID-19 ticket. So yes, we are working together with all our partners. This issue needs to be put to bed and resolved. And our citizens, I agree with you 100%, deserve that. And we're working hard to try and accomplish that, Councillor DeRose.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, we definitely, I like what you guys started to do to engage the landlords. I think some of them from the letters we got were misconstrued what the approach was, but they are part of the solution. So continue that. Thank you.
Thank you. Residential rental licensing, again, I have Councillor DeRose.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to talk, I'm just curious, we did receive what the revenue is. I'm always a cost person. I need to know if someone can look into on staff what this has cost us. We've, according to Jason, we're going to be hitting revenue neutral this year through projections. I'm just curious at the cost, because I always look at the costs of things. Now, I am not against it, because I think the number one thing it does is it provides safe homes for Thorold residents that are leasing or renting. So I'm not against it. So, but I think we've kind of strayed from the goals I thought were to deal with safety, Brock student housing, and to raise some revenue. But I don't think the revenue part is resolved, and I don't think the Brock student housing has improved much. Thanks to the good work of the town and gown. I feel the bylaw from the beginning, and I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody because I wasn't on council then. I don't even know who was on staff, and I don't think it's most of the present people we have. But I feel it was poorly implemented. It needs to be enforced properly for the people that are circumventing the bylaw. And that's all I wanted to say about it. But I would like to know if we can find out the true costs up to date, because we have lost money. We have spent money as taxpayers. I always like to know how much. Well, thank you.
Okay, and I can tell you that the memo laid out some of the costing and some of the revenues coming in. And I can ask our chief building official. Okay, and I'll get Jason to speak in one sec, but I will tell you that the program originally was designed not to make money. It was designed to be revenue neutral. And that was the intent from the time that the program was implemented. It was not implemented to be a cash cow. It was implemented to be revenue neutral, to not only supply safe housing, but also to let us know where all these rental properties are and contacts for landlords, which we have used successfully in some of the issues that we've had lately. So anyways, I'll turn this over. Jason's ready. He wants to speak on this. Okay, our chief building official. Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councilor DeRose. I'd absolutely be happy to provide a report on the revenue end of things specifically, and I can provide that report at next council meeting. It certainly, the program certainly didn't get off and running as originally expected. I know that was prior to my time with the city of Thorold, but things certainly have started to move in a very positive direction. But I can totally understand your wanting to know the numbers, and I'd be happy to provide that report for next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Is that okay, Councillor DeRose?
Yes, thank you, Jason. One more thing. I said this about the Brock situation. I think we've got to start getting some teeth in our bylaws. In other words, once we've given them enough time to tell us that they have a rental or whatever, let's now start enforcing to set precedents. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jason, go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councilor DeRose again. I completely agree, and I will say that as of December of last year, the city does have a fine structure in place now, and we have started fining non-compliant landlords, and that has certainly helped increase the compliance rate with this bylaw, which is a reason we've seen a huge positive uptake in it.
Okay, so so there's a staff report for next, Councillor DeRose. You've requested a staff report. I need a seconder. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Neal. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. I'm going to go now to item number 3, affordable housing, and I have Councillor Neal up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I'm going to deal with the Niagara District School Board and St. Charles School, so I'm not sure whether there might be a councillor that might need to declare a conflict, but I'll give him a minute to think about that. And then I got a few comments to say before the motion.
So, Councillor DeRose?
Can you repeat that, Mr. Councillor?
Yeah, Councillor DeRose. I'm going to be talking about St. Charles School and affordable housing. And of course, the Niagara District School Board is, of course, the owner of that particular.
The Catholic School Board, my employer, yes.
Yes.
I don't know, Mr. Mayor, would that create a conflict for me? I don't
know whether it would.
I can't tell you that you have to declare conflict based on your own. I can't tell you to or not to declare a conflict.
I don't think I have a conflict there.
Okay, thank you. No, that's
yeah,
fine.
the clerk. Thanks, though, Mr. Councillor Neal. But if the clerk could correct me, I don't think there's a conflict. But if there is, someone let me know. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's up to the individual councillor to determine if they have a conflict or not. If you're in doubt, you're better to declare a conflict.
Councillor DeRose, I don't think it's a motion that's going to really impact you at all, but.
No, and I'm not, I don't think I'm in conflict, so I have no concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay.
Yes, the city has put it as one of its mandates to create affordable housing and long-term care in Thorold. Our age-friendly committee has been working on affordable housing as one of its mandates. The Thorold organization has as one of its mandates to create affordable housing in Thorold and has met with the region, Bethlehem Place, the Thorold Nonprofit Housing, and other organizations to discuss affordable housing. One Thorold will be bringing forth a proposal sometime in the future for affordable housing. The city has, as part of the new subdivisions, a component of affordable housing as part of the development. Of course, the federal and provincial governments have recently stated that they want to move forward on affordable housing. The reason has as one of its mandates, affordable housing. Therefore, Mr. Mayor, I would move, and seconded by Councillor Kenny, that the city approach the Niagara District separate school board to discuss the future of St. Charles School regarding creating nonprofit housing and or long-term care on the site.
So you're basically asking that our staff contact the school board and have a discussion on what their long-term plans are for that property, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you have a seconder, Councillor Kenny. The floor is open for discussion now. Does anyone want to speak to that? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment. I think, there's no harm in having the conversation and seeing if we can do something great for our community with that property, if they're open to that. So I'm for that.
Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose. And then I got Councillor Decker. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will support that. There's always room for more affordable housing and seniors living, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Decker, did you have your hand up?
I did, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Yeah, I also agree with that we should be asking what they're gonna do with the land. But keep in mind, I know that maybe it was just a clerical error that Councillor Neal did call it the Niagara School Board. It is the Catholic School Board, so I think we have to make sure that that's how.
Yeah, it was in my notes, but
Yeah, okay. We'll make sure the writing's fine. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Neal. I just want to get this straight. You just want us to be open-minded and ask for an opinion from them?
Just to see if they might be, yeah, exactly, open to discussing. Yeah.
Be open-minded. That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Now we'll move on to consent reports. We have one, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8 consent reports. Are we moving them as all together, or does someone want to speak to one? Does anyone want to speak to one of the consent reports? Because if you don't, then we're going to move them as a bunch, okay? Okay, so we're going to move them all. I have a mover, Councillor Kenny, and a seconder, Councillor Longo, that council approve the consent reports, save and accept those items brought forward for discussion. No items were brought forward for discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And now we move on to discussion reports. Up first, CAO 2020-07. I have a mover, Councillor Longo, a second, Councillor Neal, and I'll turn this over to our CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations are that council receive this report for information purposes, and the second is that council provide direction to staff on how they wish to proceed. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone that wants to speak to this report? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, this was a review that we asked for at the onset of the year. And the reason that council had asked for that was because we felt that everyone should be paid fairly for the work that they do. Also because this council wanted to make sure that running for council to represent our community is affordable and accessible to all members of our community. And regardless of your financial status, that should be accessible to our community. And adequate remuneration is a relevant factor in that. And so, having read the report thoroughly, it stated that Thorold is substantially paid less than the average. And so I would like to put a motion forward from that recommendation, if I can, to accept the average compensation to our comparatives for both council and mayor, as per the report from staff, But because of what's been going on, I think the original plan was to have that backdated till when we asked for the report. But I would like to put in that motion that it's effective as of September 1st, 2021. So it gives us ample time, a year, to be past what's going on in the world now. But at least we can put that to bed and make sure that there's the appropriate pay.
So we have a motion. We have a motion on the floor. Do you have a seconder? I have Councillor Decker as a seconder. And now I'll open the floor for discussion. Okay, so who wants to speak on that motion? Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I think that's a fair way to go about it with everything happening in the world. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it right now, and I think that puts us going into our last year of council, and it takes the pressure off of, you know, future councils, whether we run or not, whether or not we get elected or not, to not have to make this decision that, you know, everybody wants to avoid. And going forward, they won't have to, and it's just an average, and we won't reap big rewards from it, and we'll be through, hopefully through COVID, and or have a better grasp on everything. So I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak to that? Councillor Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's been a long time since council has really got a raise. I think we got a 2% raise at one time way back, maybe when I had black hair instead of the type of hair I have right now. And that, so I think it's something that we need to move forward on. And I like the idea of not putting it through until next year, and or the future council, basically. And so I have no problem with it.
Does anyone else want to speak on that?
Yeah, I'd like to speak, but I've lost my screen. Okay, I got it back.
Go ahead, Councillor Ken.
Yeah, I'm not going to support this for a couple reasons. I think the remuneration showed we are underpaid. I would like to wait to find out about our staff employees and our unionized employees, because I think it's going to come back that they're below the rest of the cities in the region. I don't think it's fair that we increase our pay without increasing their pay. If we all agree that we're going to increase the staff's wages up to par with all the other cities, and the unionized workers up to par with all the other cities, I guess I could support it. But at the present time, the way it is, we cannot vote ourselves a raise. I don't think we should be voting ourselves a raise in this manner. What we should be doing, if we think we're owed that money, I think the last council meeting at the end of our term, we'll vote ourselves the 50% raise to get up with everybody else, and then we'll let the people of Thorold decide if we should have got the raise or not. I don't think we should be voting ourselves a raise right now. So I will not support it, because I cannot vote myself a raise and not give it to the other employees in the city. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to this? Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Kenny. I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't get raises if they're underpaid. I believe we have those reports coming forward this year and next year. I certainly wouldn't say that we should get something and they should get something. We're not getting much of a bump. We're putting it in before the next term. I don't think any of us got this for the money, but I would obviously support anything that came forward that showed that our staff or our unionized employees are underpaid as well. I don't see this as a problem to that. Thank you.
Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree with some things Councillor Kenny said. we're talking about a specific thing right now, which is our remuneration. And I understand your sentiment for the workers, and we all have that in our hearts. I have a problem. The only problem I have with this, I think we deserve more for what we do. I honestly do. I think, like, personally, I'm just looking at my own personal direction. I knew what I was going to make before I applied on council and duly elected. So that's not why I got in it. That's not why any of us got in it. But and I'd be a hypocrite if I supported raise for myself. It would be a hypocrite because I've been lambasting everybody about COVID and, we got to tighten our belts. We got to do this. We got to do that. So I'm under the impression that it's a good gesture, Councillor Wilson, that do it in a year, but I honestly think we should wait till the next, Councillor Kenny said, the last meeting before the next election. And because the next group of council, we deserve it. Due to COVID, I say, I'm having a hard time supporting it. I do definitely believe that next council will deserve it because, or should get it because this should have been looked at maybe years ago and they kind of put it on our back now. And I just, like I said, I can't be a hypocrite. So I'm going to, I won't be able to support this. Sorry. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. This has come forward to council several times before, and it's always awkward for councillors because nobody wants to vote themselves a raise. It's completely unnatural. It's not what we're used to having to do. In the corporate world, your boss decides if you get a raise or not. However, we seem to be the council that has to make some tough decisions, and it's not about us. That's the way I look at it. It's about making sure that there is fair pay. Fair pay for staff members, absolutely. We're not asking for a raise. We're just stating to be brought to par. That's all. And it's really a small amount of money. It's not large whatsoever. I think we've spent more on fencing around ball diamonds than this would even affect. And it really wouldn't be into effect until next September. And I did spend some time speaking to the CEO and understanding what our financial situation is. And I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but we are not in a bad financial situation. The city is in a good spot. But aside from that, there's going to come a time when a council is going to have to make a decision. And last time it was brought forward, they decided not to give themselves a raise, but give the mayor a raise, which the mayor at the time felt it wasn't fair because they never had the opportunity to vote, right? So I know it's awkward, but it's not about us. It's about future councils and to make sure that we don't end up with council that is only consisting of people that are business owners and want to be here for reasons other than helping their community. Not the business owners are like that, but I'm just saying you need to be paid fairly, and it needs to be affordable for people to do because there's lots of costs associated to being on council as well. So that's my response to that. I don't think there's a concern because of COVID, but out of respect, we are not saying that it should be back paid like most motions would be when it comes to remuneration. We're saying wait an additional year, and then we should be far out of the woods for all of this. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Kenny.
Yes, I agree with what Councillor Wilson said to a point. That's exactly what I'm saying. We do not vote ourselves a raise. The last meeting before our term, we vote the raise. We get even on par with all other municipalities. The new council will get the money, and the people will decide if they want us back after voting for the raise. I think I just cannot take a raise and have our unionized employees that just signed a 3-year contract that I know are working below rates of pay of other municipalities and us taking that big of a raise. So again, I won't support it the way it's
okay,
Councillor.
Councillor Longo, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it is an uncomfortable situation anytime you have to talk about your own wage, obviously. I believe we are underpaid. Well, I like to speak for myself every time I speak to an employer. I believe I am underpaid. It's just the way I am. I've never been part of a union, so I'm a one-man show. I believe I am underpaid, but I took the job knowing what I would get paid. I will not take the money now. I will not take it a year from now. I would take it if I ran again and was reelected next term. If I decided to, I would take it then, but I wouldn't do it now. I just feel uncomfortable giving myself a raise. I appreciate everybody's point of view, some very good points of view, and it is an uncomfortable subject. The only way I would support this is with a friendly amendment that it came into effect for the next term of council, which would be 2022, I guess.
December 1st, 2022, Councillor Long.
And I would vote it for the next term of council. And like Councillor Kenny says.
Oh, he says November 15th. Go ahead.
If the people are upset about it, they can decide who they want on council to get that money.
So do you want to make a friendly amendment?
Yes, I would if Councillor Wilson would accept
Councillor
it.
Wilson, that friendly amendment would be, and I'm getting this date from the city clerk so that I make sure that the right date. Can you give me the right date, please?
Mr. Mayor, it would be the first pay date for the next term of council.
Yeah, first, yeah, and the clerk thinks it's what? November 15th. Okay, that's a friendly amendment if Councillor Wilson accepts the friendly amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, I do not.
Okay, so did you have your hand? So that's not a friendly amendment. So if this is passed, it passed. If it doesn't pass, then you can bring that forward, Councillor Longo. Is that okay? Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a couple questions through you to the CAO. Whenever it happens, is there a charge on the levy for this? And am I right that we have reports coming forward for our unionized and staff people?
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, we have done the assessment for non-union staff. That report has to come before this council. For unionized staff, we are going to put in our budget for next year, and then we are going to do the assessment for our unionized staff next year. Thank you.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Councillor Sentence? Go ahead.
The levy part, anything that is done here, is it on the levy or is there funding from somewhere else?
Anything that we do here, I guess it's ultimately is coming from tax levy. There is no grants or there is no other level of funding that comes about. What Councillor Wilson is saying that if you are implementing next September, so for next year it will be just for 4 months. The total addition, I guess I can see, is $50,000 for 43,000 for council, and then 6,500 for mayor. So for next year, it will be about $16,600 or $700 will be the impact, and then subsequent year there will be a full annualized cost of $50,000 over. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? So the motion on the floor, do you want to read it, please? We had a mover and a seconder. And well, that was the report. I don't know. I will say this. I don't know how the mayor got in that report, because the report was supposed to be for council. If I wasn't mistaken, because of, am I right, Councillor Wilson, that was the original intent?
I don't remember if the mayor was excluded or not. It was like January, so I apologize if I don't remember the exact wording.
I think it was to bring council up because the mayor got an increase last time and council didn't. That was my understanding. So I don't know how the mayor.
So would Councillor Wilson like to?
The report coming from staff is just looking at what it would take for both mayor and council to be paid the average. So
Okay, that's the motion.
it's relevant to include the mayor's position, I believe.
So the amendment on the floor is that the average comparator salary for counselor wages is $16,297.16, and mayor's salary of $42,277.13, effective September 1st, 2021, be approved.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? All those in favor, I can't, let's go back. Put your hands up. We got 4. 1, 2, 3. Is your hand up, Councillor Sentence? Opposed? Do I vote on this? Yes. I'm opposed. So it's a tie, correct? Oh, it wasn't a tie. Okay. 4. Okay, it's carried.
How's it carried?
It was 4-3.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Go
Did
ahead.
you vote?
Councillor Longo, go ahead.
Did you vote, Mr. Mayor?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
The mayor votes to break a tie.
That's right. The practice here is the mayor would vote to break a tie, and this wasn't a tie. It was 4-3 with councillors voting.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, if I could, to the clerk. I know we didn't ask for a recorded vote, but could the results be recorded?
They will be recorded in the minutes. Whenever we have a motion that is not unanimously approved, it does note who is in favor and who was opposed in our minutes.
Okay, and for clarity, should we redo the vote so you know who did it, or did you catch it?
I did catch it. Let me confirm. I have in favor Councillor Sentence, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Decker, Councillor Neal. In opposed, Councillor DeRose, Councillor Kenny, and Councillor Longo.
Everybody good with that? Okay. 16B, PWCS 2020-48, moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Sentence. And I'll turn this over to our Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman. Jeff, you're muted. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that council approve the proposed changes to the traffic calming policy. 2, that council pass a resolution requesting the town of Pelham to review the posted speed limits in the area of Hansler Street and Hollow Road, and to consider a cooperative approach to establishing a road watch program and/or community safety zone. 3, that staff be authorized to construct permanent speed humps on Hansler Street and Hollow Road. 4, that funding from these traffic calming devices be accommodated within the 2020 Urban Road Resurfacing Program.
I said I had a mover, Councillor Kenny, seconder, Councillor Sentence. Does anyone want to speak to the motion? Okay, I just want to say, Jeff, it's a great report, and it's a very important report, as you can know by the feedback we get out in the community. So thank you so much. Councillor DeRose wanted to speak now. Go ahead.
For you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to reiterate what you said. Great work, Jeff. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Up next, I have PWCS 2020-49, mover Councillor DeRose, seconded Councillor Decker. And I'll turn this over, who's doing this report? Is Jeff or Jeff? Okay, I'll turn this over to our Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that council authorize the necessary repairs to the arena ventilation system in the amount of $7,459 plus HST, and that funding for this expenditure be funded as a general budget overrun. Thank you.
Is there anyone that wants to speak to this motion? Councillor Longo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Holman. Jeff, I don't see if this says it's for one particular arena or both. Could you just explain, please?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. There's three items in the middle of the report there talk about what needs to be done. The majority of the cost is associated with the repair and replacement of the exhaust fans. That's in the Doherty Arena. There are some controls and thermostats that need to be dealt with as well. There is a small cost, $525 for exhaust fans in the White Arena, and that's just to help us deal with the air exchange system to make sure we're not getting mold and other odors migrating into that facility.
Okay, so the vast majority is for Doherty.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. PWCS 2020-50, I have a mover, Councillor Wilson, seconder, Councillor Longo, and again, I'll turn this over to Director of Public Works and Community Services, Jeff Holman.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that council approve the indefinite closure of the Darlene Ryan and Allenburg Community Centers until such time as these facilities can be operated in strict compliance with public health guidelines and approved budgets. 2, that staff continue discussions with the Thorold Senior Citizens Association to coordinate the arrangements for the safe reopening of the Seniors Center. 3, that the Frank Doherty Arena be opened and operated in accordance with the proposed COVID-19 operations manual, community services. 4, that the James White Arena be temporarily closed to the public. And 5, that staff be directed to recover all eligible operating expenses and lost revenues resulting from COVID-19 through available federal and provincial grant programs. Thank you.
So now you've seen that. The report's there. I open the floor. Speakers to the report. Do we have any speakers? I have Councillor DeRose first, and then Councillor Kenny. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted the manager of community services not available, the
Yes.
writer of the report.
Yep, he's here. Do you want?
Oh, he's here?
Yep.
I don't see him on the screen. Oh, no. I meant Curtis. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's here. So if you have
Oh, he's here.
So
Okay,
if you
sorry.
have a question,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, Curtis, can you just explain table 2, the arena table 2? I can't remember what page it's on. I'm looking at it here. Page 3, I believe, of your report. I just need to know those revenue projections. So are they certain at this point? I was a little surprised that we put the ice in when we did, just because I know in Toronto, their MTC8, the hockey league there, they've off till January 1st. They're worried about outbreaks. I'm just curious about some of these numbers, that's all. If there were projections, if they're accurate or whatever. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, these numbers are very accurate. Right now, we have basically all of our primetime ice booked and rented through various youth organizations in Thorold, with the odd hour here and there, which will be offered up to men's leagues that wish to come back to play.
Councillor DeRose?
One more question. we all voted on the opening of the splash pads and the pool. I'm just wondering why council didn't have a say in any of this, and it just seemed like just appeared out of nowhere. I'm just wondering why the direction was different for the arena than it was for the splash pad and the pools. Thank you.
Do you want to speak to that, anyone?
Mr. Mayor, if I can, and then perhaps if the fire chief's available, he can provide his thoughts. A great question. So this is a facility that is indoor. Obviously, there are some operating challenges that would take place. The decision could have been made not to put the ice in and simply just ride this out. We did receive a lot of requests from user groups who needed to organize their plans and challenge staff to come up with a solution that was going to be acceptable to public health guidelines. And so that's where the staff has spent the majority of their time. And I give Curtis Dre and Stephanie Jarvis a lot of credit, as well as our arena staff, to come up with the proper cleaning protocols to make it safe, just as we've done with the splash pads. I think we have a little bit more knowledge about COVID and how to protect ourselves, even though we have no control over it. But I think it's a more balanced approach to reopening up our facilities to the community who are asking for them right away.
Yeah, and if I can expand on that, Councillor DeRose, we were one of the last municipalities to put ice in our arenas. Pelham, Fort Erie, Port Colborne, St. Catharines, Niagara Falls all put ice in prior to us, Niagara on the Lake. And a lot of that was based on minor hockey, figure skating. All those groups have put their own restrictions above our restrictions on return to play. And so I know that, Jeff, their restrictions are tougher than our restrictions. Am I correct when I say that?
Yeah, it's difficult to really evaluate those, Mr. Mayor, because every facility is different. They have different size lobbies, different number of change rooms, hallways are different. So we had to look at this as a kind of a site-specific evaluation and receive some good advice from as many people as we could before we could say that it would be safe to use.
One thing that did come up in our mayor's meeting today was that the CAOs and the directors of public works or community services all come together and try and have a unified approach across the region. I know that there's certain things you can't do unified based on lobby space and that, but they're more about how long before, how long after you get into the arena, social distancing in those areas and showers and things like that. So just so that there's a consistent approach. Have you been involved in those discussions at all?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have. In fact, we've taken a pretty hard line on some groups that would like to use showers. We just don't think it's a safe thing for us to do at the moment. And I know that some municipalities are entertaining them, but we feel that the approach is better off to be one that is slow and cautious, as opposed to going too fast and then having to cancel ice time and just confuse, you know, what the whole objective is.
Thank you.
I've been working with other groups, and Curtis and Stephanie are in touch on a regular basis through their with their colleagues to talk about what can be done to make things more accessible for the community.
Okay, Councillor DeRose, do you have any more questions? I got you, Councillor Kenny, you'll be up next.
Yes, one last question. Oh, myself, or who do you want first, Mr. Mayor?
No,
Sorry.
you're up. You have the floor, Councillor.
Just one last question. We have the projections in for 2020, but how about for the spring? Because you're talking money that's going to be a hit on the levy, over 300,000 for 3 months right now, and then I'm just wondering, what is it going to be after in the new year? Do we have any projections for that? Manager of Community Services. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So obviously the current situation that we're living in is very dynamic right now. So the approach we're taking is we're going to come back to you again with another report closer to the end of the year to update you at that point. But right now, with the vaccine and just the rules changing daily, we just didn't want to project too far out and start putting numbers out there that we just couldn't commit to.
Thank you.
Okay, I had Councillor Kenny, go ahead.
I got three things here. In the report, it was mentioned that the James White Arena is closed temporarily. We do know lacrosse was in there. I think there's money to be had there. I've been in contact with some people from Niagara Lake, and they are very interested in that floor. I think there's money to be had in renting that floor out, and we should work hard to get that arena floor open, because even if it's $50 an hour, or we put a COVID surcharge on it, whatever we have to do, we've got floor space there, and there's people that want to rent it. So why not use it?
You're talking dry floor space, correct, Councillor Kenny?
That's right. That's right.
Do you want to, anyone want to speak to that? Jeff or Curtis, anyone want to speak to that point?
I'll let Curtis speak to that because he has been in active discussions with the lacrosse group.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have looked at that, and we have been in discussions with some of these groups in consultation with senior staff, Jeff and Terry Dixon as well. We're not saying no. We're saying let's get minor hockey up and running and look at this as of November 1st. Again, just because we can doesn't mean we necessarily should, based on the numbers and COVID numbers that are going up. So it's not off the table. We're just saying let's be very cautious about it and take the necessary precautions.
Councillor Kenny, you had other questions, or?
Well, yeah, on that point, I want to be cautious just like everybody else, and I want to be safe like everybody else. It's just that there's opportunities for like guys to go in there for 3 hours during the week at night. There's money to be had, and I don't know why we wouldn't we take it off the table, but that's just
no, he's not saying that. He's saying it's something they're evaluating for, but looking at a timeline of November 1st, not this month.
Yeah, well, why wait 3 weeks? There's money to be had. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Also in the report, and I've got some calls from the Sunday morning group, the Tuesday afternoon group, our own group. We must have good communication with the user groups that are not using the ice right now, that if and when it does happen that the showers and locker rooms are open, that that they're given a weaker notice so that they come back in line, because some of them are worried. The news out there is that if the Tuesday group doesn't take their ice now, they don't have it for the rest of the year. That is not the case. I talked to Jeff, and I just want everybody to know out there that if and when the locker rooms are open, the groups that have been there for many years will get first right to get their ice back. Is that right, Jeff?
Go ahead, Jeff.
That's correct, Councillor Kenny, but perhaps Curtis could answer that more clearly.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely correct. So basically the process is right now we're booking a month at a time, the ice a month out. And the reason why we're doing that is that at some point when the province comes back and says, yes, it is safe to open the dressing room and we can have showers, that gives us enough lead time to put the ice into the James White Arena and start normal operations. So no group is getting bumped. This is not a bumping session. This is a commitment to the youth leagues of Thorold, who are willing to play without showers and the restrictions that we've outlined. But for next year or later this year, we will absolutely honor their time that they've had for many years in the past.
Okay, and just one last point. I got a call last night from somebody whose 5-year-old child is going on the ice for the first time on Saturday with the hockey school. His concern is that there's only 20 people allowed So he's being told he has to tighten his child's skates and go out to the parking lot. He's worried that the kids, 5-year-old kids, first time on the ice, they're going to start, getting upset, crying, whatever. There's only going to be 5 coaches in there to the protocol and the 15 skaters. I know it's up to the TAAA to have the protocol there, but we as the city, what can we do to help this if we can do anything? Because I can see his point that, the child for the first time on the ice as a 5-year-old, I've saw many times they cry for a while, and these parents are not going to be able to be there. Is there anything we could do for the numbers just for this instance, or is that out of the question?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the process right now is that the parents are allowed to come into the space to essentially get their child ready and then have to exit the building. We are concerned for that point as well. However, we've installed a doorbell on the outside of the facility, which rings directly to the staff's phone in that situation, as well as each user group is required to provide a contact for their group. So I get the concern there, but again, it's about the larger community with the potential spread of COVID and keeping the numbers in the provincial guidelines intact. So we'll be sensitive to it to the best of our ability. Again, we'll communicate that doorbell service and the contact for each group to the users.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, who else wanted to speak? I seen Councillor Sentence. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, through you, just to the a couple of the hockey points. That I wasn't aware of with the Chiefs through all the cities.
It's freezing up.
And the way can you hear me?
No, I can, but you keep coming in and out. You're freezing up.
Oh. Or that that assure me that come November we'll look at it hard, and if we're in good shape, that we'll consider all these things. So there's more at stake here, and more. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Where am I now? I'm on to PWCS 2020-51, moved by Councillor Neal and seconded by Councillor Kenny. And again, I turn this over to Jeff Holman, Director of Operations and Community Services.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that the lease agreement with Youth Connections Incorporated be terminated, and that 2, the outstanding lease payments in the amount of $25,665.96 be deemed uncollectible.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose, and then Councillor Neal.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Operations, who exactly are Youth Connections Inc.? They had a classroom. Are they affiliated with any school board, or who's their affiliation?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have a lot of background on that. Perhaps Curtis Dray could answer the questions. I understand that they were affiliated with a group home in St. Catharines with a head office in Oshawa, but I'm not sure they were affiliated with any of the local school boards.
Go ahead, Curtis.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm really surprised, and I know, Jeff, you probably weren't even here, either was Curtis, but how can rent go uncollected? In the report, it says rent stopped being paid in March 2015. No one realized that it was unnoticed till September 2019. 4.5 years went by, and how do we not realize they weren't paying the rent? I just don't get it. It would never happen in the private sector. Kids would have rolled after a couple months of not having this information. I don't get it. If someone can explain to me, even though I know you guys weren't even here, I would appreciate an explanation. Thank you.
Jeff or Curtis?
I'll try, and then perhaps Curtis can fill in the blanks. I think what's happened here is the way the lease was structured was it was a prepayment. So as the operator of the community center, the community services department would have issued an invoice. It would have been paid at City Hall, and it was a prepayment for the next month. I think what's happened at that point, staff had changed. There was no follow-up. The payments were not invoiced. So as a result, the payments or the rent wasn't invoiced, so the payments were not made. By the time the reconciliation was done, there was a number of years, and a number of staff members have changed positions. Yeah, this is a bad news story, and I appreciate that, but I think it's important to clean this matter up. We've asked for a legal opinion on our ability to collect, and based on the prospect of collection, it doesn't make much sense. But to fix this problem moving forward, you may recall that earlier this year we talked about the implementation of ActiveNet, which requires anyone who's purchasing something or leasing something from the municipality to pay upfront online, either through a credit card, and that avoids the process of having to invoice and do a collection. So I believe with the new process in place, this won't happen again. I do think that there was obviously miscommunication that took place between the staff at the time.
Did you have any further, Councillor DeRose?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. One more question, Jeff. Do you agree with the legal advice as, is it because they don't have any money, or is it, I just feel like taxpayers of Thorold got $25,000, but even though I know they're tied in, what you said, with a reputable group in St. Catharines and Oshawa or whatever, but I just feel like we just got stiffed $25,000. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I understand that angle. I think by the time you go through the collection process and you end up paying for the costs to try and recover even a portion of that amount for a group that during their tenure did provide some type of value to the community, it doesn't seem like it's the right thing to do. Of course, we would take council's direction if they would like us to pursue that, but based on the advice we're getting from our lawyer and kind of the nature of the situation, I think the best thing to do at this point is to correct the error and move on.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Councillor Neal and then Councillor Wilson.
Just a couple of questions. Didn't the Board of Management at the Ellenborough Community Center, weren't they not aware? Don't they have input in regarding the rental of their facilities, or our facilities, but they're the board up there. So there is no communications between the board and the city in order to catch maybe that this was happening. And I understand now that this won't happen again, but it could unless there are checks and balances put in place for it not to happen again. And I hope that the city administration has put the checks and balances in place, not just for this community center, but for all of our recreational facilities that we rent out and have these types of situations.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not familiar about the board and whether or not they would have recognized the payment had been made or not. I know that part of the arrangement involved in-kind contribution from Youth Connections, and they did provide some cleaning services. Presumably, they would have continued, and the board would not have known necessarily that the payments were made or not.
Curtis, did you want to add something?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So essentially what took place was this is a contract through the Niagara District School Board, is my understanding, for special needs children. And they were leasing the upstairs space of the Ellenberg Community Center. And again, there was a report back, I'm going to say in 2015 around there, to council, which was approved. So it was all vetted correctly and taken care of. The process was flawed. So essentially, to Jeff's point, they were paying in advance and there was no invoice issued. And for whatever reason, a simple process error, it went to the wayside and wasn't captured until essentially Jeff and myself came on board. We spotted it and identified it. So they did actually pay for the final year of their tenure at the complex. In speaking with the individual, essentially, if we go to claim this, again, yes, there's legal fees. It would essentially put them in financial hardship to the point where they would likely have to close their doors. And again, it's a organization that deals with special needs children. So that's sort of where we're at.
Do you have any further questions, Councillor Neal?
No, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just surprised by this whole situation. What's done is done. It fell through the wayside, but I just find it hard to believe. I know they have a good cause. They do well in the community, but they certainly were fully aware that they did not pay rent for 3 years. And so, and I know there is cost associated with then getting, a judge to say, yes, you owe these monies and arrange a payment plan. But it's not that difficult. I've owned properties before and done all of that. I just think at some point we have to stand up for what's right as well, in my opinion. I just think it's okay, they're a worthy cause, but you did something that is just, it's wrong. They knew they were there for free. It's not that they couldn't afford it and they were making token payments. I just think it's wrong for a council to say, okay, our bad, we didn't invoice you and you got away with it for 3 years, so we'll just eat it. I can't get behind that. I just don't think that seems right. It's just not ethical.
Anyone else? Did you want to speak on that, Jeff? No? Okay. Anyone else that wants to speak? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I have PWCS 2020-52. I have a mover, Councillor Senton, seconder, Councillor DeRose. And again, I'll turn this over to our Director of Public Works and Community Services.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is a recommendation that council consider the outstanding account receivable under the Niagara Region CSO funding program in the amount of $63,088.35 as uncollectible and written off and funded from the Sewage Capital Reserve.
Okay, that was a mover, Councillor Senton, seconder, Councillor DeRose, and I open the floor for questions. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Notices of motion. There's no closed meeting. Bylaws. First reading of bylaws. I have a mover, Councillor DeRose, seconder, Councillor Decker, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. Bylaw 139-2020. A bylaw to confirm, adopt, and ratify matters dealt with by council resolution, and the same now be read a first time. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Final reading of the bylaws. Moved by Councillor DeRose, seconder, Councillor Decker, that the bylaws just read a first time be read a second and third time and do pass, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adjournment. Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Wilson, that this meeting is hereby adjourned at 8:24 p.m. I want to thank everybody, and we'll see everybody next Tuesday? Next Tuesday for Have a good rest of the evening. Thank you.